$10 pours during the month of November at the top secret podcast lair south, also known as Mr. Lester Steakhouse at Cypress Bayou Casino. I'm your host, Kevon Bordelon, as we bring you more Implicit Bias. And yes, let me tell you, the pours that are available here, you do not want to miss. So you're probably looking at a shot of bourbon that we've had here tonight on the show right now. The Eagle Rare, not here. I'll leave the bottle. Whatever's left, they can sell. I don't care. I don't know if it's legal. I don't think they care. Regardless, it's Mr. Lester, so he's going to do what he wants to do. But that representative, that Bib and Tucker, let me tell you, at $10 a pour and everything else they have, when I'm talking about Foregate Bluegrass Trilogy 3 at $10 a pour, when I'm talking Redemption Cognac Cask Finish at $10 a pour, those are weekly whiskeys that will absolutely help you solve the problems of the world, as we do here on Implicit Bias. Renee?
You know, some of those whiskeys are just unobtainiums. You know,
They're hard
like
to find.
You look at the representative, the senator, we drank that out. So
yeah, there's no more senator left.
But there is some representative left. It's just, you come here, the selection that they have is just phenomenal.
And the food.
Oh,
the food
it's
is
even better.
That much better. It is. We are waiting on our spinalis, which that is the scientific term for a ribeye cap steak.
Oh, I was going to say,
chef is going to bring us. Yeah, no. Let me introduce the rest of the crew, because you saw and heard the voice of Louisiana's only certified master tobacconist, and we're going to talk to him about the cigars that you can smoke here in the only 5-star restaurant between New Orleans and Houston, where you can also smoke a cigar in the restaurant. It's the only one in Louisiana that this can happen. We're going to talk to Renee about that in a minute. We've also got sitting next to Renee, Jonathan Broussard of Industrial Fabrication Services. He's here enjoying the show, enjoying being a part of the crew, as he has been now for quite a while. He is the winner of the box drop What Would You Pay championship belt chain, because he accurately predicted what the price of every bourbon and whiskey pour would be here in Mr. Lester Steakhouse in the month of November. Now, that's the Implicit Bias bracket. That's probably not everything. So if you come in and you're like, hey, I want that Johnny Walker Blue for $10. No, right? That's not happening, because that's not what we do.
Well, Johnny Walker
bourbon.
Blue is not a bourbon. That's a scotch.
But we also have some ryes that are part of Implicit Bias. So whiskey, you get a little muddied there, right?
Oh, okay.
That's why I say it's the Implicit Bias bourbons or ryes, $10 a pour. K&B also here, also known as Kennebra. Sitting at the table, he is the Implicit Bias producer. He is the Implicit Bias pledge. He is Better Off Dead. That's also his nickname. He is Walker Griffon, who is probably watching a baseball game right about now.
You would be correct.
I would be correct.
You would be correct.
He's not even trying to hide it anymore.
No, he's not. He's double dipping, right? He's enjoying doing what's not his job while he's doing his job. But here's the best part of this. And I said this earlier. I want to make sure we say this on the air. Walker, you're 22, correct?
Yeah, about to be 23.
Still 22, about to be 23. We give an awful lot of grief to the younger generations here on Implicit Bias. We do, because that's what should be done. What also should be done is giving credit where credit is due. Walker may be one of the saviors of his generation. Walker, while he's not perfect, Walker has shown up and shows out every single time we do this show. Since basically we kind of drafted him into being the new producer, he really didn't have much of a choice. He was kind of told, hey, you're the new producer after Sam, rest in peace, died to the show. And we needed somebody to do the work. Walker has been here. He hasn't been perfect, but he's learned from his mistakes, and that's all you can ask. So credit to Walker. We thank you for not only doing what you do, but also putting up with us giving you grief. Renee?
Even after he got a grown-up job, too.
Yeah,
he
because
shows
he's got
up.
his own radio show now.
Sometimes he's a little late, but he's there. He shows up, and we get the job done. He does a great job.
He does.
Thank you all.
Look, okay, hold on just a second. I don't think you realize the just the girth of this accomplishment, because somebody sat you.
You said girth.
Somebody sat you at a table and said, "We want you to do this job and drink whiskey."
Yeah.
And if you're not a big whiskey drinker, trust me, my learning curve lasted about 17 months before I said it. Because first year I was finished by this point of the show. Second hour I was done.
Walker wasn't a whiskey drinker to start with. You know, he was a beer
Correct,
guy
yeah.
like me.
That's what I'm saying.
And,
Don't downplay this. Because
that's why I say Cavan is evil.
Hey,
He forced us to drink and learn to drink whiskey.
But look, he growed him up a little bit.
Yeah, he did.
Because he told him, sat him in a chair and said, "Do this and drink 120 proof while you're."
Yeah,
That's no
That's
small
a trick.
thing. Yeah,
that's
right.
a trick.
so gents, let's dive into solving the problems of the world as we like to do here on the show. We are getting ready for election 2024. And I often say there's a lot at stake. There's also a lot on the table. Everything is on the table. I mean, let's be honest. On social media, they are trying to prep some people for, we're going to announce that aliens are real right before the election. That's where we're going. They are prepping people to start watching. Hey, if you see something, say something. And we now have people seeing and saying lots of stuff. So one of the stories, and I apologize that you didn't get this as homework, but what we did get is a couple of Supreme Court decisions, several of them, a week before, or one of them a week before, which was really a big deal. The Supreme Court came out and said, yeah, election day, as is stipulated in federal law, means election day. It doesn't mean election month. And we talked about this on last week's episode of Implicit Bias. If you didn't catch it, find us on podcast, find us on YouTube, X, Facebook. It's all out there. We're pushing all that content. But you had the secretaries of state for Georgia, Michigan, Wisconsin. Sound familiar? Sound familiar from 2020? All come out and say, we may not be done counting votes on election day. It might be 3, 10, 15 days. Well, according to the Supreme Court, as of today, and this is the interesting part because what you're going to get are multiples, because this was filed not in one of those states. There was a lawsuit that said, hey, we want to be able to count votes that come in unmarked, no postmark, after Election Day. And the Supreme Court said, how about no? How about no? Election Day means Election Day. You get your ballot in, or it doesn't get counted. Then we had a really big one the day we recorded this episode. So this was one of those things that happened late. 6-3 decision by the United States Supreme Court. State of Virginia, yes, you now can remove non-citizens from your voting rolls. Go ahead, Renee. I'm opening this up before I even get started.
The thing with that, why is that even a challenge? I mean,
what do you mean, why is that a challenge?
That somebody sued the governor of Virginia for removing illegal or non-citizens from their voting rolls.
Wait a minute. Why are non-citizens on the voting roll in the first damn place?
I mean, isn't that part of our laws that you have to be a citizen of this country to vote in this country? Ooh. So why was that even a challenge? You know, they went through the voter rolls. They found that these people aren't citizens. We have to remove them. And some a-hole decided to sue the governor of Virginia, going, you can't do that.
Tell us how you really feel, Renee.
Well, here's the best part. I'm trying to hold back.
Here's the best part. Remember this, Renee. The very same people that told you the government says you must have a vaccination, since that whole pandemic subsided, brought in 12 million people who weren't vaccinated. I want you to think about that and think about who are the people who want non-citizens to vote.
Yeah.
Why are those two things connected?
You know what's really strange, especially in California? Well, that's strange in itself.
Well, California's strange by itself, yes.
Some municipalities have passed ordinances that allow non-citizens to vote in local and state elections. Now, the federal government says they can't vote federally, but they allow non-citizens to vote in local elections because, oh, their kids are going to school, so they need to be able to vote for school board. No, you're here illegally. What part of illegal don't you understand? You're a criminal because you're here illegally. It just frustrates me. I don't get it.
Grant?
It's just the connection Kavan was trying to make. I mean, the sole purpose for opening that border was to all of the illegals were shipped to these swing states.
Come on, Renee, do it.
Can I get a witness?
There we go.
Yes. Yeah,
That's the point.
Just that's why they were let in mass was to go to the swing states and affect. Now Virginia's Governor Youngkin, correct?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, and Youngkin sued the federal government for that, but then a judge in his state upheld it.
Well, of course they did. Oh,
That's just. I mean, they're not even trying to hide it anymore. It's so openly blatant. So
banalis.
So we have a mass migration or immigration of these people brought in just to vote. And as soon as the election cycle's finished, what's going to happen with all these people?
Okay.
But depending on who gets elected, we know what's going to happen.
Here's the best part. Go ahead, Jonathan, and then I'll chime in.
You know, I
I
think they're working on the common man's ignorance, and I'm by no means expressing stupidity. Ignorance to the fact. How many people actually know that just because you're living here doesn't give you a right to vote? How many are going to fight because that person doesn't actually have a right to vote? And it may be here on being illegal or what have you, you know?
That food is so good. That steak is so delicious and so tender. Literally, I cut it with a fork, number one. And number two, I completely forgot what I was going to say. I completely forgot where my mind was on track because that single bite of spinalis, and I'm going to enjoy saying that the rest of the evening, that single bite of spinalis with chef's potatoes was so delicious. To go back to what Grant was saying, the entire premise, and this is how you know that Donald Trump is winning. I know no other way to put this. This is how you know. And let's start here. Number one, the Harris campaign has pulled all of its funding from the state of North Carolina. They've stopped. They're not spending another penny. They've walked out. It's over. They're not walking out because they're winning and they're worried that he might come back. They are walking out because they can't win. That's number one. Number two, and this is the big secret that no one will say out loud. The big secret is this. They have to manufacture voters in order to try and come up with enough votes because they know how many people are going to vote for Donald Trump. That's the point. The very simple point is, and I'm going to say it, call me a conspiracy theorist. The only difference between me and the news is about 6 months because they're behind. They had to manufacture probably 30 million votes to claim a victory in 2020. And now they are trying to figure out how to manufacture 40 to 50 plus million votes. Because if you look at every single swing state, look at New Jersey. New Jersey is a great example. New Jersey is a notoriously Democratic state. Please, again, don't believe us on this. But if you go look at early voting, the Republican turnout is significantly higher when it's always been significantly higher for Democrats. And, you know, you can say, well, some of those Republicans we think are going to vote the other way. Great. Some of those Democrats are going to vote the other way too. So you know what to do with that. The finger that Walker normally gives us, we're going to give to you on that argument. But that's the point. The point is they have to manufacture voters. Without that, they're dead in the water.
I mean, that was one of the problems and the Republicans this time realized that after they keep saying there's no proof that they manufactured votes.
Oh, there's plenty of proof.
But they won't accept the proof.
That's a very good point, Renee. Go ahead, give yourself a can I get a witness?
Can I get a witness?
Yes.
They don't know how many votes they need to generate
That's
to
the
beat it.
problem.
That's what scares them. I mean, last time, they had the 3 o'clock drop, which
3 a.m. Yep.
That all of a sudden it just blew up. But now the Republicans are kind of beating them at their own game because they're showing up in advance to early vote, which they never do. But they're saying now, I mean, I saw a report in Lafayette Parish, 18% of the voters have already voted. We're lucky if we get 18% to go to the polls.
So I actually interviewed Louis Perret, who is the clerk of court for Lafayette Parish. If Tug ever gets on his job and actually sends me that video, I'll put it out on our socials. He's over there enjoying that spinalis. Anyway.
You just like saying that word.
He anticipated somewhere around 65% of the vote would show up of the voting public. That's high. I think we'll see higher. Yeah. I think we will see what we are going to see. I do believe is a ridiculously high national turnout for voters, which could make Tuesday night when we go live really interesting because you may have a number that is insurmountable with 4 or 5 days down the road.
Well, I mean, normally, and I know in Lafayette Parish, because I know Louis well, I talk to him on a pretty regular basis. We're lucky on a big election if we get
name dropper.
We get 40. If we get 40%,
yeah,
of our registered voters in Lafayette Parish, we're lucky if we get 40% on presidential elections. And now, they're talking 60 plus. That's just phenomenal.
That is absurd. Much like what we are tasting here. So
those potatoes are the bomb.
Those potatoes are ridiculous. The potatoes are ridiculous.
What would it be like if he put cinnamon toast crunch bacon in there?
Oh God, no. You know what, Renee? I want to stab you with this fork just for saying that. Walker, take the finger. No, we're going to take the break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk more bourbon and whiskey, what's available here at Mr. Lester's. We're going to talk about the liquid that's in the bottle and the price for the pour when we come back in hour 2, which is always more fun on Implicit Bias.